Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is I, Hidden Flame, and I do apologize for the lack of timeline videos, but I have been trying to do the lineage of the Dragoons, and I am failing miserably. Seeing as how there's only 1 to 2 Dragoons per game, trying to organize them, it's not easy. But while doing that, I actually found a new theory. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, it was asked of me, where will I place Final Fantasy Tactics, since it has mention of Cloud. It has mentions of Balthier, has mentions of that kid from Tactics Advanced. I can't remember which one it is. So I did a little research, and while playing Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO, a little expansion coming out called Stormblood is bringing in a raid mission called Return to Ivalice, which means they are going to connect Eorzea and Ivalice. Now, in 14, they have also added in Final Fantasy VI with the Magitech items. So people have told me that Final Fantasy XIV can never be canon because it's an MMO and they put things in the game due to fan service. But I disagree. I honestly think the Magitech armor and this new raid is just a small little connection into the bigger part of things. Now, with Tactics and 13, that puts Tactics into the timeline. But where? Well, let me give you a little bit of backstory on something in Final Fantasy Tactics. In Final Fantasy Tactics, there are wonders, or unexplored lands that can be unlocked as little extra cards. Like little things like, oh, you found this, or oh, you found that. Just little things you can do in the tavern between your missions and tactics. And some of these are the Shrine of Chaos from Final Fantasy I, the Forbidden Land of Eureka from Final Fantasy III. We got the Floating Castles. We got Matoya's Cave. You have the Crystal Tower. That's from 4. You got the Tower of Babel. You've got the Phantom Train from 2, 4, 8, whichever ones he's shown up in. So you have all these little connections in the game, making it so that it's hinted that this comes after the events of the entire timeline. Now, it's only the first 4 games that appeared. So, why does this not put it in somewhere in the middle? Well, if you remember in my Final Fantasy VIII tie-in, you will remember that I said that the world pretty much died at the end of 8. There was like nothing after it. Because in 10, the world started collapsing. In 6, it was the world of chaos. Things were not looking too good. In 7, the world was decaying. 8, there wasn't many villages left. Now, in this part of the timeline, I am adding Final Fantasy Tactics to the end. And not just Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 13, no, not 13, Final Fantasy 14, and Final Fantasy 11, and also Final Fantasy 12. Now, I'm throwing 11 in there because 11 takes place, I can't remember if it's before or after 14. I want to say it's before it, because one of the characters in the game comes from, I believe, the past, like 100 years in the past. But that's all a lot of information just to throw at you and expect you to believe. So let's give a little bit of proof. Okay, so the very first bit of proof I'm bringing to the table is that of Ivalice. So, Ivalice is a recurring setting throughout the entire uh, franchise of various games. It is the world of Tactics and the world of Final Fantasy 12. It also is going to make an appearance, as I said before, in 14's Stormblood expansion. The Game Boy Advance version of the Tactics had it in the world of Ivalice in both versions. And Square Enix even very so nicely gave me the timeline for Ivalice. So let me show that for you guys. Now, while I can't really read Japanese and I have no idea what this is saying, I have found a rough translation of how this chronologically fits into all of the games. So let me try to explain. Okay guys, so Final Fantasy XII is the first one we're going to talk about real quick. So this is coming from the Final Fantasy Wikipedia, where I found the Ivalice timeline. So in 12, it's called the Age of Myths. The gods calling themselves the Akurura, I guess I just pronounce it, in Final Fantasy XII worked upon the world of Ivalice. They created 24 scions based on the zodiac, split into the scions of light and dark, tasked with important objective. Based on ancient texts, some believe that there is a 13th scion, and the scions of dark rose against the gods and were bound to the world, hence why only half of the scions appear as espers in Final Fantasy XII. Before Ivalice was created, there existed two warring tribes of gods, the Faber and the Danin. The war lasted a millennia until the prophet Matoya predicted that the death of the Dayan god king Zabam in the hands of his trusted blade. Zabam feared his trusted general Anis to be the death of him, and imprisoned him and his loyal followers in the darkest labyrinths. Anis implored the death god Heth to free him in exchange for his own life. Freed along with his followers, he sought revenge. Now, Ahanis the Holy, he and his followers appeared millennia later upon Fabar and battled the Danin triumphantly. The Fabar god, Wakaya, was intrigued with the strength of his vengeance and swore oath to fight alongside his men. Battles raged on for countless millennia until Ahaz finally confronted Zabam and defeated him. While Wakaya sought the head of Zabam, Anis wished the Danin God King repaid for his misdeeds and immortalized Zabam's body, transforming it into a great land and named it Ivalice. Now Ahanis the Shining, he and his followers withdrew into the heavens and watched as men lived triumphantly on Zabam's eternal body. Thousands of years before the Galtane alliance was established, the Akuria ruled over Ivalice. While man was starting to thrive, the Akuria built imposing structures such as the Pharos at the Redoria Cataract. For reasons unknown, they withdrew from their command into hiding into the city of Garuvigen, causing mass confusion until the dawn of the New Age. Some believe that they left because of the 1,000-Year War incited by the 12 Espers, led by the corrupt Holy Seraph Ultima. The Espers were defeated, and the Akura, waiting to ensure the Espers would not rebel again, bound them into glyphs and banished them into the dark reaches of Ivalice. The Aegeal Fulthanos defied the Akuria and sealed himself and his people on the Pervama of Lemuras to evade their wrath in secret. Philothanos married Vera, creating a subspecies known as the full Vera. Just a side note, I hate Square Enix for giving me really, really hard words to read. In the time of glaciers, Ivalice was covered in ice, much like the ice ages of Earth. Many creatures adapted to the land-based way of life, but some creatures, such as the crocodile, struggled surviving through the colder temperatures and their population dwindled. Eventually, the glaciers began to melt as the climate's temperature rose, flooding the lands, and suddenly change in sea level killed many land species, and a number of surviving creatures, such as the coral, were forced to adapt. Vague records claim that magic was brought to Ivalice from an unknown continent and into the hands of the man. It is unknown if the Akuria had a hand in this or not, as they are known to have given magic stones with great power to individuals of their choosing. Now, on a side note here, when it comes to these magic stones to give magic to people, these could be the same magic stones that are in 7, also as materia. Could be the same ones from 10, which the spheres could be considered as the power spheres, the magic spheres, things like that. Just a side note. Circa 1294, years before the Valdinian calendar, the Light of Kiltia was founded in Ordelia by a prophet of the same name, with Mount Amsace at its center. The dualistic faith worshipped by polytheistic pantheon led by Pharum the Father. It was an early precursor to the Church of Galbados, and also influenced in the Locust priesthood. Circa Old Valdian 1. Ivalice was at war. The Akuria, fearing Ivalice would be scarred even more, gave the Garif a large piece of nethicite, a weapon to set everything straight. The Garif was unable to use it, and angered at the Garif's incompetence, the Akuria came to learn of Rothwall's victory over the Esper Beleus. Amazed, they gifted the nethicite along with the King of Swords, or the Sword of Kings, to him. Taking 3 shards of the motherlode of nethicite, the Sun Chris, King Rothwall united Ivalice and became known as the Dynast King, and the founder of the Galtian Alliance. The empires of Archadia and Rosaria arose and expanded quickly. King Rothwall was buried with the Dawn Shard. His tomb is guarded by an Esper he had defeated in life, Beleus. The Dark Shard went to the kingdom of Damascus, while the Midnight Shard went to the kingdom of Nabradia. In Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2, the Grimoire of the Wreath, the ruins of Delgantua are described as dating back to the Galilean era. This is further evidenced by the ancient stone architecture that composes the rooms and halls. The dancer priestess, Mulan Kamp, lived during this era, a practitioner of the darker arts of Kiltia. Molenkamp amassed a following, created many magical grimoires, and founded the city of Liamande. The blood sin tattoo on her back was passed down through her family after her death and serves as the key to Liamando. If the Zodiac Braves of the Church of Galbados legend did exist, it is said to have happened in a warring period before the union of Ivalice, and possibly a reference to the Galatian alliance of this era. Circa Old Valadian 706, the empires of Eorzea and Arcadia were at war. A truce was signed by the son of Emperor Gramus Soldur. Vane assassinates his father and takes over the empire. He hopes to start a war with Eorzea and become Ivalice's new dynasty king. As he is being led by the rogue Akuria Vinet, who wishes to shatter the control its kind had over Ivalice. Vane is stopped and killed by Prince Ash of the Kingdom of Dalmascia, along with the sky pirates Balthier and Fran, the street urchin Van and his friend Penello, and the Dalmascan knight captain Bosch von Rosenberg. Ash had been the Akurius chosen, but destroyed the Sun Chris instead. A year later, the Pervama of Lemurs is revealed to Ivalice along with the mysterious angel race. This sparks a treasure hunting spree among sky pirates that a maddened fellow Thanos attempts to exploit. The party who stopped Vane Soldair, along with some new friends, defeated Phil Thanos and restored peace to Ivalice. Circa Old Valdanian 800, a great catastrophe hit Ivalice, wiping out many landmarks and taking out many races, including the Mughals. Man stated referring to the previous era as the Golden Era and rebuilt the world from the ground up. In an age where airships and robots were commonplace, Pharaohism became the dominant religion of the Holy Yarden Empire. A man called Ajora, at the age of 20, started to preach about the coming of paradise. His influence incited unrest among the Pharaohist priests, and Ajora was caught and hanged by the empire, after which an earthquake wiped out Yadara and sunk Muldone into the sea. Some took this as a divine sign and started praising Ajora as the child of the gods. Over the next few decades, Ajora's tale would become twisted and make him seem greater. The Church of Galbados was founded by Ajora's disciples, with Saint Ajora as its cynosure. Pharaohism faded with the Church of Galbados became the main religion. Presumably, Germanok wrote his scriptures around this time, describing Ajora in a less favorable light. Circa Old Valdanian 2000, Ivalice is again at war between two men seeking the throne that would become known as the War of the Lions. In reality, the war is a means to a greater evil. The Espers, now calling themselves Lucavi, want to return to rule Ivalice and possess people to use them to do their bidding. It turns out Ajora was being possessed by the Lucava's leader, Ultima, who was trapped in Ajora's body when he died. Using the War of the Lions, the current leader of the Lucavi, Hashmal, hopes to revive her. The Lucavi amasses an abundance of bloodshed to revive Ajora, Ultima's last host, by but a young man called Ramza stops them. Ramza is considered a heretic, and his old friend Delita is remembered in history as the man who ended the war. The only one who knows the truth, Oren Durai, is executed by the Church of Galbados as a heretic. Several decades on, Oran's descendants, Arazam, finds his writings and decides to bring them to bring the truth to light. While not historically relevant, Luso Clemens appears during this time period, but how he gets there is unknown. It may be speculated he used the powers of the Grimoire of the Rift to return to Ivalice in a different era once he is freed from his imprisonment. Balthier from Final Fantasy XII also appears in this era, claiming to have been brought to Ivalice's future by the Cache of Galbados. It can be speculated that during his time as a sky pirate, Balthier found a magical artifact that transported him through time. This is further supported by his statement at the end of Final Fantasy XII of going after the cache of Galbados. Previously, a Chaldean priestess named Mulcamp founded the city of Lamande. Her followers created a cult after her, and as time passed, a man called Saint Iconus was born and began prohibiting the use of magics. The influence of the Locust priesthood increased, and followers of Mulcamp were hunted down in the Inquisition. The prosperous city of Limonde was struck by a great earthquake, turning it into a concertion of dark energy and lost souls. Circa old Validian 2000, Riskbreaker Ashley Riot of Valdinia enters Lamonde to stop Sidney Laustrit, a Mulcamp cultist leader with an unknown objective to achieve in Lamonde. Ashley finds the real threat of Romeo Goldenstern, who wants the power of the Grand Grimoire. Stripping Sidney of his powers, he reveals the entire city is the Grimoire. Ashley stops Romeo, and in turn is granted the dark powers of Lamonde. Ashley becomes the vagrant internally saving lost souls who have become the undead. Circa old Validian 2400, Azalin Durai, a descendant of Orion, discovers and reveals the truth about Saint Azura, the scriptures of Grimoire, and the War of the Lions. It is unknown if Saint Ivalice in the Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is a location in the same Ivalice as seen in the other games. It is possible its name merely alludes to it. If Saint Ivalice is taken to belong to the same world, it depicts a world several centuries in the future where magic has vanished and has been replaced with technology. In a small town by the name of Saint Ivalice, a young boy called Mute Randall buys an ancient book, the Grand Grimoire. Leafing through it with his friends Marche and Ritz, along with Marche's little brother Doned, the book creates an Ivalice following Mute's designs, who in turn is inspired by a Final Fantasy game and the Grimoire's illustrations. Marche eventually reverts the world to normal, knowing it isn't healthy to live in a dream world. 10 to 20 years later, a young boy called Luso finds the Grand Grimoire, but unlike Mute's experience, this time the Grand Grimoire sends Luso back in time to the Golden Era. It is possible that this is not the same Grimoire Marche used as in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2, Grimoire of the Rift. The book is referred to as the Grimoire of the Rift. Alternatively, it is possible that the presence of Final Fantasy Tactics Advance in Ivalice itself is a retcon, as material related to Tactics Advance noted to existence of civilization that was destroyed by Noah's flood. So, if you hit the too long didn't read, the chronological order of the games is Final Fantasy 12, 12 Revenant Wings, Tactics Advance 2, Tactics, Vagrant Story, even though it's not an official title, Tactics Advance, and again Tactics Advance 2. In Tactics Advance 2, Luso is transported to an Ivalice in a time after Revenant Wings, when Van and Penelo fully become sky pirates, and hinted at the discussion they have had with Hurdy. And before Final Fantasy Tactics, during if his War with the Alliance appearance is considered canon, which is possible since Mute gave the grimoire he used in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance to Luso at the end of Tactics Advance 2. This would also explain why Luso was looking for his friends in War of the Lions. If his War of the Lions appearance is canon, it would take place after the events of Advanced 2. And it does appear twice due to the appearance of Luso in both Ivalice and Saint Ivalice. Now, since Square Enix so lovely gave me that timeline, I can easily go ahead and say that while unsure where it's going to fit with the Final Fantasy XIV connection, I can say that 14 and 11 and Tactics and 12 run on a similar parallel course. But as technology and magic and everything sort of works out, I'm saying 11 and 14 come before 12, which all of them come after 8. Now, why 8? Well, because at the very beginning of that long speech, the world was pretty much at war with each other. So there was nothing there. There was like no real cities, and the world wasn't even created. But since at the end of 8 with Unaliska's story, which is the one we're going with because my timeline branches, this Ivalice is going to be on that storyline. After she is defeated, there is nothing left. There is no time, there is no world, there is no land, nothing. So the gods created a new land, something to help revitalize the world. So, as you can tell, I hope you can tell, my timeline is getting a little clustered. So, as it sits, we have the Warriors of Light of 3, 1, and 5. Then we move on to Final Fantasy VIII with its paradox. Just like the Zelda timeline, mine does split here. In Final Fantasy VIII, you had the Sorceress timeline. So, in the Unbroken timeline that goes down, you have the sorceresses from all the way back from 3, where you had what's his name? Hein taking over the sorceress line, going into 10 as Unaliska, going into 6 as Kefka, going into 7, as Genova. Number 8, she is Ultimacia, and then she goes back in time to 8 and repeat the process. Now, in my broken timeline, Squall's party defeats her. We know what makes the sorceress's timeline as summoners, people who protect against the evil. They sort of succeed, and the events of 6 happen. The world deteriorates further into 7, even deteriorates a little bit further into 8. This is where the world is pretty much bleh. It's about to fall apart. And they go back in time, defeat Ultimacia, come back, and while victorious, the world is still falling apart. And so, as the world dies, a new world is reborn in the Final Fantasy Ivalice timeline. So, that is how things are going at the moment. If you guys agree, please give it a like. If you disagree, please give it a thumbs down. I want this criticism. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to the Dragoon storyline that I was trying to work with. I want to see what other ones I have to eventually put into the series or into my timeline. I think I still need 4, 5, and 9. But I will figure out what they're going to be in next time. So in the meantime, guys, enjoy. And I hope to see you very soon.